The Salvation Army quotes some stark statistics to argue its case. 700,000 Australian families live in poverty. The Burdigan report identifies up to 25,000 homeless children. In the age group 14 to 19, unemployment runs at an average 14%. A young Australian aged under 25 will suicide every day.
Many years of high divorce rates, with the resulting breakdown in families, has produced a generation of children who do not feel part of any family.
There's no doubting the need for the kind of welfare services offered by the Salvation Army, but while the media creates the awareness of these social problems, the Salvation Army is out there doing something positive. The Red Shield Appeal is the one time a year the Salvos put out their hand and ask the community for support in return. The Newcastle Appeal was launched at a special function in City Hall today. The local target is $404,000, although the Salvos spend 5 times that amount in the Hunter. Corporate fundraising is well underway, with big donations already from NBN, BHP, the Newcastle Permanent and Lake Macquarie City Council. Minister for Police and Emergency Services Ted Pickering presented state government cheques totalling $5,000. In his speech, he praised the work of the Salvos in the days and weeks following the earthquake, where thousands of rescue workers were fed by the Army, which also provided teams of counsellors and other welfare assistance. The Minister also saw a link between child poverty and young criminal offenders.
A society that isn't able to effectively look after its children should not be in any way surprised when it finds those same children act in a manner which is deleterious to the rest of society.
The door knock will be held on Sunday, May 27. John Church, NBN News.
The Camira wagon was barely recognisable after last night's crash. Police say the vehicle, driven by Lorraine Rotolo, was crossing the railway line at Dibb Street at about 9:40 when the fully laden coal train approached. The tandem loco was travelling at low speed when it hit Mrs Rotolo's vehicle virtually mid-on. The train driver managed to stop within a few metres, but by then the vehicle had been twisted against this post into a ball of metal. Witnesses, who included the woman's husband driving another car, gave the occupants little chance of survival. But miraculously, the only space left in the wreckage was enough for the toddler's baby capsule. The mother was freed by her husband and later treated for a fractured arm. The escape has done little to calm local residents who say they've long predicted an accident like this. Poor visibility on the crossing, which is controlled by stop signs, is worsened by long grass growing on the embankments. Many wonder why a similar crossing just several hundred metres away is controlled by lights. The accident is being investigated by State Rail.
"19-year-old Paul Henderson from Waratah is the fastest teenager in Australia. The National Junior 100-metre champion, with a personal best of 10.39, Hendo can match it in any class. Paul's selection in the World Juniors means he'll be doing just that, running against the world's elite in the 100, 200 and the relay. But not just representing Australia, he'll also be running for Newcastle.
It's a great feeling, like being an Overcastrian, to be put into a team like that, and there's plenty more to come, I think.
Also hoping for more is giant Ellamore Vale sprinter Chad Stevenson. The former tearaway schoolboy now has to share his passion of running with earning a living. He's just a week into a hairdressing apprenticeship. While work is disrupting his training, Chad is specialising in the 100, hoping to make the finals. From there, Commonwealth Games selection in '94.
To wear the green and gold, there's no better feeling. Any sportsman who's worn green and gold, it just brings you up for competition so much, it's unreal.
The only hurdle now, apart from those on the track, is $4,000 for each athlete for airfares and accommodation in Bulgaria.
Like bees, or rather bears, to a honeypot, hundreds of children flocked to the big top in the Newcastle Showground this morning for a teddy bear's picnic on a grand scale. The Siberian Browns danced their way into the hearts of the youngsters, who'll no doubt be putting more than a little pressure on the parental purse strings as they beg for a front row seat at the real thing. It was high-flying excitement all the way as the Muscovites kept the crowd balanced on the edge of their seats. For some, the tension was simply unbearable. The Moscow Circus starts tonight and runs until Monday.
Resident of a ground floor flat, Mr Reg Barnes was woken by an explosion at 11:30 and saw smoke and flames billowing from the building's roof. He evacuated his family and the occupants of other flats. But today he said the building, awaiting repairs after the earthquake, was likely to be condemned, with extensive damage to the roof. Mr Barnes and other residents were this morning trying to salvage smoke and water damaged possessions. Hamilton Police said there were signs of a break and enter into this unoccupied upstairs flat where the fire started.
While most were enjoying the holiday break, teams were hard at work today bringing down the graceful old building. Hunter Street was closed for more than 3 hours as workers carefully negotiated, piece by piece, to demolish the brick walls. Another victim of December 28th, the job proved quite a tourist attraction, leaving another empty site in Newcastle's West End.
The four-day championship got underway yesterday in ideal conditions, but because of the recent wet weather, the course is a minefield of slippery and very wet tracks through the state forest and former coal mines around Cessnock. The competitors ride a two-lap course of 150 kilometres per lap and are in the saddle for around 7 hours each day, really testing the endurance of machine and man. Enduro competition is similar in many respects to car rallying, with a series of time checks and speed sections, and in this particular day's racing, 10 sections are in operation. The riders are pushing their bikes through some of the most picturesque country in the valley, with frequent excursions back onto the roads to link sections of the course. But one thing you can be sure of, if you don't like getting dirty, then this sport's not for you. Most riders were able to negotiate most areas of the course, but at one of the main checkpoints, a little extra test was in store for the uninitiated, an almost vertical climb up to the old Richmond main rail line and the next part of the track. For some it was a snack, but if you didn't make it, it was a rather nasty and painful fall back into thorny bushes. But these lads are tough, and after cursing a bit and picking up their undamaged machine, it was full bore, up and over. Another 2 laps of the course will be staged tomorrow, and the final day's motocross racing takes place on Monday. "166 boys and 42 girls will compete in age groups from 12 to 17 and will also take part in the open competition. The Jack Newton International Sub-Junior Golf Classic has grown in stature over the past few years and is now firmly established as a leading tournament in the development of golf in Australia. Today was the last chance for many to test the waterlogged Cessnock course, while others were content to head to the practice fairways. One of the favourites in the Open Girls is Queenslander Rachel Hetherington. Playing off a handicap of 2, Rachel is the current New South Wales and Queensland junior champion and is also a member of the Australian Women's Open team. Meanwhile, over at the East Maitland Bowling Club, the second day's play in the Hub of the Hunter Invitation Singles was conducted on greens that were running around 14 seconds. Sectional play continued in 4 groups, and Beresfield's Barry Solder strengthened his chances of a semi-final berth with an easy win in the morning. Lake Cottee bowler John Snell is also on the way to the semis after notching win number 3 against George Dawes from Charlestown. Local bowls coordinator and pre-tournament favourite Dennis Dalton had a tense battle with Maitland City's Terry Harmer before grabbing the honours, and he's still a chance to make the final 4. Semi-final spots will be decided in the 1 round tomorrow.
The three-day event at Lochinvar is the biggest gathering of world-class dressage riders Australia has ever seen. From 60 competitors, 6 have been chosen to represent the country in the World Equestrian Games to be held in Stockholm, Sweden in August. Once selected by a panel of 3 judges, the team has to be approved by a governing body, and late this afternoon a telephone link-up around Australia was achieving just that. Meantime, in the ring, riders were displaying their skill in the freestyle event, a graceful collection of set movements to music. The riders are judged on their artistic performance, technical excellence and the overall standard of their work. But whether the performance scores highly or not, the movements are executed with such grace and harmony that it's like watching equine ballet. Today was not the first time Broken Hill's Silver City Comet drew into a Hunter station. In the 1940s, the diesel-powered Comet temporarily replaced the Newcastle Flyer during wartime coal strikes, although Broken Hill was home base between 1937 and 1989. In November last year, it was replaced by a road coach. It was a sad farewell for past passengers of what was Australia's first air-conditioned express train, who felt a part of the country's history was being lost. But the Comet was saved from permanent retirement by a number of rail motor societies, enthusiasts who were also concerned about the fate of the train. The Rail Motor Society at Patterson has been working furiously over the last few months to build tracks to house the 9 carriages and 2 engines of the Comet. The train will now be based in the Hunter and maintained and restored for use as a tourist passenger train.
Led brilliantly by champion halfback Peter Sterling, the Eels dominated play to run in 4 tries and notch a 23-0 victory. At the Cricketers' Arms today, the Knights players, wives and girlfriends had a rare opportunity to get together during the footy season.
We don't get many opportunities to bring everybody together through the year because of the demands and the strains that are put on the individual for training and the families. So we seized upon the opportunity today to put them together and just relax as a club.
Looking back at the tactics instigated by his opposite number, Mick Cronin, Alan McMahon agreed that Parramatta carried out Mick's instructions to the letter.
They were going to jump the gun and meet us on the advantage line and stop us before any momentum that took place. And, they had the quickest moving defence line, that nobody had the answers to on the day. It was, it was very quick, very sudden. And as they did stop us before, we could get any momentum up whatsoever.
But from all defeats comes the learning process, and McMahon is anything but despondent.
As I said, there were some good things to come out of yesterday, and that'll remain in-house. And the Brisbane, it'll be a very, very vital game for them too. They need the points as well as we need the points. We're at home, and you just can't run a pencil through form at the moment because I think the salary cap's evened it all out, but we'll bounce back.
However, the selection meeting tomorrow night could be interesting, with a number of players back from injury to give the club much-needed depth.
There's a bit of availability now coming back into the club, and the selecting of the side tomorrow night won't be easy. There's guys that have played quite well and some guys putting some pressure on some of the other fellas. So it's going to be I'd say a long, hard selection meeting tomorrow night.
Traffic leaving the freeway was still heavy today, even as the official holiday period came to a close. With the state's Easter road toll at its lowest since 1968, the Newcastle region can take much of the credit. According to figures for the Newcastle and Lake Macquarie regions, driver behaviour was good. Police breath tested more than 4,000 drivers, charging 56. 660 motorists were booked for speeding and 31 for failing to wear seatbelts. Highway Patrol Inspector Kevin Curry says the result is encouraging for the future.
If we find that over the next 4 or 5 years we can carry out the same reduction, Easter will not be the perceived problem that it is today.
One aspect of Easter motoring which drivers and police were powerless to prevent were the inevitable traffic snarls, especially at Freeman's Waterholes and Raymond Terrace. Inspector Curry says the problem was anticipated.
They are our problem areas as far as traffic flow are concerned. Obviously, where you do have 2 lanes of traffic reduced into 1 lane, traffic conditions do tend to block. But I believe in the future, with the extension of the Palmers Road section of roadway, as well as changes that will take place in the Raymond Terrace area, improved traffic flows will be a sign or there for the future.
The Franklin is moored at Merriweather Wharf, where it will remain until May the 10th. Since its commission in 1985, the research vessel has berthed at Hobart, visiting most ports on the east coast except this one. Economic factors have resulted in a rethink. Captain Don Gordon says Newcastle has certain attractions for the annual service and refit.
Well, it was programmed to go into Sydney, but Newcastle provides better ship repair facilities and it's cheaper wharfage, and besides the people are better. So, you know, makes it a pleasant stay to be here.
The Franklin is engaged in a wealth of scientific research on charter to several universities. Apart from a chemistry lab, the vessel is also equipped with a computer room for deciphering masses of data gathered on everything from water salinity to ocean currents. Its next stop will be Townsville, where it will carry out research for the James Cook University. More than a dozen scientists are expected to rejoin the vessel here about a week before sailing to program computers and prepare for the voyage.
The Insurance Council released its latest update on the Newcastle earthquake today with some sobering statistics. So far, the quake has generated more than 30,000 claims on insurance companies, with more than 50 new claims being lodged each day. With estimates that the quake will cost insurance companies $800 million in payouts, this makes our disaster more costly than Cyclone Tracy. When adjusted to $1990 terms, that disaster cost $650 million. To date, the GIO has finalised 6,566 claims, worth $58 million. $7 million is being paid out each month. The NRMA has processed 6,739 claims, paid out $51 million so far, with the current payouts running at $5 million a month. The concern, however, is not the scale of insurance costs, but rather delays in getting claims settled.
It's not because we are not willing to pay out money. It's a question of being able to finalise the claims, get the adjusters working properly, and more importantly, get the builders in to make the repairs necessary so we can send the cheques out. We'd like to be faster if we can be, but it's a matter beyond our control to quite a large degree.
There is one certainty in the Newcastle earthquake experience, and that is that a rise in premiums now seems inevitable.
So they're not going to go down. How far up they go, I wouldn't have a clue.
Westmore made his comments during a visit to Newcastle of the State Chamber of Commerce, the first time the Chamber has met outside Sydney since it was formed 165 years ago. Members have been briefed on the push for an upgraded airport at Williamtown and the Honeysuckle goods yard development currently under review. State Director David Taylor says the Chamber will continue to lobby for tax and rate relief in its drive to attract investment here.
But we are strong supporters of any programs that will help Newcastle in its development.
When When Kay Cottee sailed into a tumultuous welcome on Sydney Harbour on June 5, 1988, she became one of her country's greatest heroes. In 129 days and over 22,000 nautical miles, she became the world's first woman to sail solo, non-stop, unassisted around the world. In the following months, Kay would be named Australian of the Year and then would tell the tale of her amazing story in a book aptly titled First Lady. The hardcover version of that book was launched last year and immediately shot into the Australian bestseller list. Today at Charlestown Square, Kay launched the paperback version. The result was a mammoth queue of fans, all keen to grab a copy and the opportunity to have the author sign it.
I'm very interested in watching what Kay's been up to. I've sort of been following with little bits and pieces for ages now. I think it's fantastic to have an Australian lady doing such wonderful things.
One of those things everyone would like to do, and Kay's gone and done it.
I just think she's a brave lady and deserves all the fame and fortune she can get, and I just wonder what she's going to do for an encore.
For Kay, such continuing adoration is a little overwhelming.
And it's quite amazing, considering I've been home nearly 2 years. Most of them just say thank you. Thank you for doing the voyage and showing them that ordinary people can do things, and thank you for writing the book.
Aside from signing autographs, Kay's time these days is taken up mostly with young people, both raising money for life education and completing a national tour of schools. She says the reaction to her from young folk is wonderful. Many say her feat has given them the confidence to take on their own challenges. And clearly her journey had captured the imagination and the heart of one youngster waiting patiently in the queue today.
I think she's very clever to sail around the world by herself, and I think she's very brave.
The booklet has been produced annually for the past 30 years, rewritten and updated with the latest information on employment, industry, resources, planning and development. It's intended not only as a handy ready reckoner for the 500,000 population of the region, but is distributed worldwide to publicise the investment opportunities here. The most prominent message this year is that tertiary industry now engages 73% of our workforce, 12% greater than 10 years ago. There's increasing productivity in coal, agriculture and manufacturing, but not jobs. They are now being found more in the tertiary sector,
including the wholesale and retail trade, leisure, recreation and tourism, community services, health, education and welfare. So they're just a few of the examples, but it covers a wide range of the service sector.
Lord Mayor John McNaughton, in launching the 1990 Yearbook, said he's encouraged by the trend and our goal is to increase tertiary activity even more, trying to bring our unemployment rate at least back to that of the rest of the country.
If we could stop that gap and have the national average in the tertiary sector, in other words increasing it from 72 to 79%, that would mean that we would remove the difference between the unemployment nationally and the unemployment locally, and we would have our unemployment, in fact, I believe, less than the national average.